I'll call the special meeting of June 26, 2013 of Erlanger City Council to order. Roll call, Ms. Hoffman.
Mr. Longshore. Mr. Burke.
Here. What world do you live in?
Is it about where you are?
I'm off here.
Mr. Dunhoft.
Here.
Miss Skidmore. Here.
That was a comeback.
Miss Sudcamp.
I'm here.
In my own little land.
Miss Pitts.
Just thinking.
Miss Kyle.
Here.
Miss Cahill. Mr. Cahill. Mr. Brown.
Here.
Mr. Blankenship.
Here.
Mr. Howard.
Here.
We have 8 of 12. That is a quorum. We have 3 items of business to take up, all second readings. The first is of the franchise fee ordinance with the revised release provisions in it. Then the 2 ordinances accepting the Duke and Owen Electric bids. Mr. Wickman.
An ordinance of the City of Erlanger and Kenton County, Kentucky, revising the franchise release provisions of Ordinance 2378, by which there was established a non-exclusive franchise for the use of the public streets, alleys, and other public grounds of the city for the transmission and distribution of either or both natural gas and electricity through and for consumption within the city, as indicated in the title and by summary. The only thing this ordinance does is revises the section 3.10.9 in ordinance 2378, and the revisions are indicated in the section 1.
The motion will be to adopt an order published. Motion, Mr. Dunhoff, second by Mr. Burke. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Dunhoft.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Sudcamp.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Blankenship.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Skidmore.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Kyle.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Howard.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Burke.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Brown.
Yes, ma'am.
Motion carries. Mr. Wickman.
Pardon me.
Me too.
It's an ordinance of the City of Erlanger and Kenton County, Kentucky, accepting the bid of Duke Energy Kentucky, Inc. for a 3-year non-exclusive franchise for the use of the public streets, alleys, and other public grounds of the city for the transmission and distribution of both natural gas and electricity through and for consumption within the city.
Motion to be adopted, order published. Motion by Ms. Sudcamp, second by Ms. Kyle. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Brown.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Burke.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Howard.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Kyle.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Skidmore.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Blankenship.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Sudcamp.
Yes, ma'am.
See what I knew he was
Mr. Dunhoft.
Yes, ma'am.
Let the record reflect that Mr. Longshore has joined the meeting. 2 ordinances have passed. Now Mr. Wickman, the third.
Do we have a vote for Mr. Longshore?
You have a vote for this was the Duke ordinance. Or was it the
Did
Owen?
we record a vote for Mr. Longshore?
Yes, ma'am.
We have now.
It's an ordinance of the City of Erlanger and Kenton County, Kentucky, accepting the bid of Owen County Rural Electric Cooperative for the 3-year non-exclusive franchise for the use of the public streets, alleys, and other public grounds of the city for the transmission and distribution of electricity through and for consumption within the city.
Motion would be to adopt an order published. Motion by Mr. Longshore. Second by Ms. Kyle. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Miss Sudcamp.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Blankenship.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Skidmore.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Kyle.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Longshore.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Howard.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Burke.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Brown.
Yes, ma'am.
We have passed all 3 ordinances. I thank you all for coming in on an off night to take care of that.
Oh, I didn't get Mr. Dunhoft. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. That's what I thought.
Sorry.
Motion to adjourn by Ms. Sudcamp, second by Ms. Kyle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thanks for coming, Shane.
I think I'm just going to stay till 7 just for,
You gotta stay 3 more minutes now to make